You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, I will be discussing how to know when you become codependent in a relationship and you're in a relationship with someone that is actually taking advantage of you. And this is very important to understand, very important to acknowledge. It's one thing if you're in a relationship with someone else that's also codependent, that's also giving and there, because codependency is not always a bad thing. It's not always a good thing, and it can be very toxic and painful when we're in the relationship with the wrong folks, and that's what we want to talk about today. And we want to acknowledge what it really means, how to know, what are the symptoms, how do we know straight up, this is exactly what's happening, this is what's happening in my life, and I have this with corroborating factual evidence, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And I want to begin with discussing the rescue mission. It's like we're always coming to the rescue for this person. No matter what's happening, we're always coming to the rescue, saving them from themselves, saving them from their ex, saving them from their family. I mean, whatever it is, saving them from their boss. It's like we're always coming as the rescuer, the savior for this person, and they don't seem to be able to do things on their own or for themselves. And sometimes, eventually, over time, we begin to realize that this is part of their prerogative. This is part of their way of life. But in the beginning, we kind of like feel, oh, I should do this, I should help. And it seems to give us, well, I don't know, we feel good about ourselves. Look what I'm doing. I'm helping this person. I feel good about my contributions. I feel good about being there for this person. And, you know, when we do have codependent tendencies, we have to remember that we get a lot of value, personal value, from helping other people. So it's not just the value of ourselves as I'm a valuable person. Me just being is a valuable person. That's really not a part of our thought process or vocabulary. It's more like, hey, I help these people. I do these things. Therefore, I'm valuable. And so think about it. The rescue mission is the perfect puzzle piece, okay? Perfect puzzle piece to someone who is going to be taking advantage of you. And that could be, you know, multiple different types of people with multiple cluster B dynamics, a combination of, there's a lot of things that are going on here. So I don't want to just specify, hey, this is always about narcissists, or this is always about people that have borderline tendencies, or this is always about somebody with histrionic, or this or that. I don't want to do that because it really does seem to kind of cross over. And I like to just kind of specify when somebody's taking advantage of you, or there's some toxicity there where this person isn't upholding their end of the bargain. This person isn't bringing as much to the table as you are. It's paling into comparison. And another aspect that I want to bring up that I think is very important is that you find yourself supporting them, not only emotionally all the time. Many of you are emotionally supporting somebody all the time, constantly. They need you for everything. But you may be finding yourself financially supporting them as well. And many of you are doing both. So not only are you there supporting them emotionally and being there for whatever problems or woes that they have, you're also supporting them financially, whether you're supporting them, their lifestyle, their children, their rent, their mortgage, their extended education, their bar tab, whatever it is that you're doing usually one or the other or both. And usually it starts with emotional support where maybe they're going through a divorce and you're there and you're trying to be there for them, or they're going through a life change, or, they had a situation with a family member, or they lost their job, all these different things. But then eventually that starts to, it's like a snowball effect. Okay. So they lost their job. You're there for them. They haven't been able to find anything, or maybe they haven't really been looking, and now they got to make payments on this, and you find yourself making a car payment, making an apartment payment, making whatever. And so that can really start adding up. But the reason why you have a tendency of continuing to do it is this other person, in the moments where you were really giving, they, put you on that pedestal. Oh my God, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have my house, or whatever. Or, whatever that is that they paint that at that moment. And it would be one thing if they were always just very, like, gracious and have gratitude, but you're not going to find that in these types of relationships, right? You're going to see the opposite as well. They will turn on you, and we'll talk about that too. Because that's a really big thing because they try to control you as well. And a lot of this is about mind control, and also emotional control, right? If I say all the right things at all the right times, and it's perfect for the codependent, then you're going to stick in this relationship longer than you probably should. And you're going to actually know it probably eventually, because remember, eventually the mask does fall a bit. Eventually, we do see some of the reality, or we get a taste of that reality that we have to come to terms with. I've heard from many clients, and, I've been doing this for quite some time. So a lot of clients I've heard about, they get the sob stories. The other person will tell them sob stories about their life, or, their finances, or their children, or their divorce, or whatever. And, you listen to it and you're there, and it kind of seems to almost pull you back in. And a lot of times these sob stories are told to you at a specific time. Okay, you may have began to maybe wake up a bit on the codependency, thinking, you know what, I'm realizing I am really codependent in this relationship, and there's a lot of things about this relationship I don't like, and there's a lot of things that I'm doing in this relationship that I don't like, and I probably need to take a step back and analyze this, because I don't think this is for my highest good. But then at the same time, you take that step back, and it's almost like they know it immediately. Oh my God, she or he is taking that step back. And people feel energy, right? So it doesn't even have to be conscious, right? It can be subconscious. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you're getting a call. Oh, I had this happen today at work. It's horrible. And you catch yourself listening to this whole story, or whatever. It's, or my ex did this to me and sent this to me, and I have to go to court over this in the next month, or whatever it is. And you find yourself sucked right back in, hoovered right back into the situation. Trying to be, that savior, that helper, which is great. It's nice to help people. I'm not saying that helping people is a bad thing at all. By any means, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that we want to help people that also can help us, but we also want to help people that can also help themselves. And I think this is very important for us to acknowledge in all of our relationships, because many of us have one-sided relationships, or unequal relationships, or relationships that you can't do this or you can't do that, but they can, right? It's uneven. It's not the same. They don't have to abide by the same rules as they ask you to abide by. So it can be very challenging to kind of analyze and deal with when, you're not able to do things that they apparently are able to do. And so that's an interesting aspect as well. And we'll talk more about that too, because in those types of relationships, at the beginning, you don't really think about it, but it's not until midway that you start analyzing. This is interesting because this is a little lopsided, right? It's a little lopsided. Another aspect that I find when you have become codependent, and see, the thing is, I say become. So some of us have that codependent gene. But for many of us, the codependency in a relationship really doesn't show up until that's the perfect puzzle piece where somebody's kind of taking advantage of that. And the only time that you're getting their attention, or you're getting, that connection with them, is when you're giving. And then you kind of lose sight, not that you're trying to keep score, but you lose sight of how much you're giving. And then you also lose sight of how many problems this person has constantly, and all the problems that you're listening to in the relationship. And you start forgetting about all that, right? You start forgetting about it. And so I want to really think, I want you to think about it, and I'm not harping on it, but I want to really, if I was going to say underline it in a paragraph, is that in these relationships, you can't have any problems of your own. You can't have any issues. Like, you can't, because there's no room for any of your issues. There's absolutely no room, right? Where's the room? There is no room. Oh my God, all the air has been sucked out of the room by that person, not you, but by them. And so if you have any problems, let's say, like, you're back on your taxes, which is scary, or, You're down some money and you're needing to kind of scrape by to get some stuff done that month. You really can't talk about it. When you bring it up, they discredit it or blow it off, or it's not that big of a deal, or you'll be fine, or they don't even hear you. They don't even hear you talk. They just start talking over you. Or, they just kind of make light about it, or they flip the script and talk about their problem, right? Because their problem is bigger than ours. Their problem is more acute than ours, which it's not. But they can't even process the fact that you have an issue. They don't, and that it's so hard for them to process anything outside of themselves. Because remember, it's all about them. It's always been about them. What they want, when they want to see you, what their schedule looks like, what their responsibilities are, what their work schedule is. It's not, and you're over there going, oh, how do I move my schedule to make it work for them? Which is so painful, which is very painful in the relationship, because you're the one that's constantly trying to make the changes. You're the one that's constantly trying to move around and to be fluid, to be there for them when they're not at all doing that. They're not trying to be fluid with you. They're not trying to do any of that with you. They don't even think about that. I mean, you're over there moving mountains. You're at work realizing I'm going to be working until 7, and you're over there moving appointments because this person has said that they want to get together at 6 o'clock, and that's their only time they can get together. And you're over there trying to move mountains to try to make something work. And it's hard because often they haven't ever moved mountains to make anything work in the relationship yet. They don't plan on it, and they're not going to. But there you are, moving mountains to make things work. And at the same process, you can't have any problems, and you can't talk about your problems. And if you bring up your problems or your issues, I mean, oh, you can handle that. You can do that. I mean, you're good at that. I mean, you're strong, right? You'll be fine. It's not a big deal, And it's hard because if they had an issue that was 1/60th of your situation, they would be like full on crying or freaking out or having a meltdown or screaming and yelling, and it's just, you just don't have the ability to do that because they take center stage. And in the same thought process, you can't ask them for help because they can't really help you, and they don't really want to help you because they're really thinking about what they need to do. Like, you find yourself going on all these runs for them, for example. Like, maybe on the weekend, the person you're dating or seeing they have off work. And so next thing you know, they're like wanting you to entertain them. Or they need to go run errands, and you find yourself running errands with them, which is not necessarily a horrible thing. But when it comes to you needing to run an errand, oh, yeah, I won't be able to go. Yeah, that doesn't fit into my schedule. Oh, you're going to church? Yeah, I'm not going. Oh, you're going over to get that auto part? Yeah, I'm not interested. Hey, I'm going to head back, even though you've run multiple, countless, hundreds of errands of things that you had no desire to do. But you still went. And the worst part about it is you still went and you canceled stuff that you needed to do. You actually canceled really important stuff that you needed to get done for work or for whatever it was to go on this pilgrimage to do something you don't want to do. But when it comes to, hey, can you go down the street with me real quick and let's take care of this? It'll take an hour. Yeah, I don't have that kind of time. Yeah, you probably need to go on your own. But, you can't go now because we need to go do this right now, okay? And so you can't ask for help. And so the other thing is that you end up having all these things you have to do and piling it in all at one time and doing it. And a lot of times when you're trying to get that stuff done, that's when they're calling you, wondering what you're doing or where you're at or who you're spending time with or why aren't you entertaining me or where are we going or what are we doing? And you're thinking, what am I going to do? I have all these stuff piling up. I'm not getting anything done. And I find myself doing all this other stuff that's not really benefiting me. And the problem with the codependency when we have this is that we're trying to hold on in this relationship. We're trying to make the best out of it. We're trying to do what we can. And in the beginning, it was almost like we were trained. Like they needed something, they needed help with whatever. And we started helping. And it felt good initially that we did help. And it felt good. And we felt good about it. And that's great. And we feel like we were contributing. But over time, that changes. And you kind of start seeing through it. And as you begin to see through it, I think a lot of times it begins when, usually in these relationships, the reasons why it makes it uneven, the reason why they are toxic, the reason why the person's taking advantage of you is they turn on you. They turn on you. So they go from being happy with you to not happy with you. They go from being happy with you to mad at you. They might even yell at you or call you names or turn on you or act one way or another. And that's painful. You might get the barrage of text messages asking where you are, what are you doing, what's going on, I haven't heard from you in an hour, you're out doing this or that, when you might be at work. And when you finally text back, maybe they give you the silent treatment, or they're passive aggressive with you, or they go, silent for maybe 10, 15, 24 hours. And it's okay if they do it, but if you go silent more than maybe an hour or two, that's a problem, right? So it's definitely one-sided in the fact that one person, has to live by certain rules while the other person, the rules don't apply. And that's a big sign too that we deal with, is that usually in these relationships, the other person is constantly asking questions about us that we would never ask about them. Or we would never ask of them. It's just not part of it. But you begin to start wondering, why is it that they're always asking me these crazy questions? And why don't I ever ask back? Why do I hold back? And that's a big question, because sometimes holding back is what's getting in the way of your growth and their growth. And I know some of you say, oh, yeah, so she went, non-communicative for 5 hours, and I'm just going to call her out. What happens if I call her out? What is she going to do then? Blow up your phone, yell at you. I don't know what the response is. And I understand many of you are scared because you've been trained not to do this. I better not, I better not rock the boat. God forbid, the freaking evil demon comes out. Or the silent treatment happens, and I can't handle that. I don't know where they are, what they're doing for days on end, and then eventually they come back around. It's like this, quiet punishment. The quiet punishment is always a real horrible thing to do to people, especially if somebody has codependent tendencies. It's really hard to deal with somebody going, silent with you and not responding, reading text, not responding, maybe turning their read receipts off, right? In an effort to make you even more discombobulated. And then they come back around as if nothing's happened. Everything's fine. And some of you may have asked what happened, but they fight with you, they blow you off. Maybe they start an argument with you, Oh, we're not doing this again, are we? But if you were to do that, it would be World War III. I also think, too, one of the biggest things that I find with a lot of folks who are dealing with these types of relationships, these relationships where you become more and more and more codependent over time, is that you don't make plans of your own anymore, in fear that you're going to miss out on something, or in fear that they're going to ask you to do something. And so you find yourself waiting around for them to make a decision about what they're going to do. You find yourself waiting around, holding your breath, waiting to see, are they going to do something? Are they going to make a move? What's going to happen? And these are interesting things to think about, because it's not like this relationship, they're giving and they're helping you and you're helping them, and it's kind of an even street. It doesn't have to be even, but close to even, those are great. That's a great relationship. That's a good, solid relationship. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about, they're expecting you to provide all of their support emotionally and financially, sometimes emotional, even mental interest, even, entertaining them. They're expecting that. And then you're there kind of just holding on, not getting any support of your own. And I think once you finally get to that point for a long period of time, that's when it begins to sink in. What am I doing? But this stuff has become really ingrained. You've been taught, okay, right when they call, I better answer the phone. It rang 3 times. I better answer. God forbid it goes to voicemail and I get to hear about how I didn't answer the phone. Or they're texting, oh my God, I can't wait another 20 minutes. If I don't text back, it's going to be this barrage of texts. And you get trained into this. Even if you don't want to do it, you get trained to do this. You get trained to take care of them. You get trained to be there at their beck and call. And many of you that are dealing with this, I know it's like you see it. You're like, God, I know what I'm doing, and I hate it. And see, that's where we have to be very careful. Is we don't want to get so angry at ourselves that we lose sight of the big picture and how to get out of this and how to get ourselves back. And I think that because of the blame and shame of what's happening in this relationship, it becomes that way, right? The blame and shame. It's like, oh, God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm a grown man or I'm a grown woman, and I can't believe I'm putting myself through this year after year. I'm still involved with this stuff. It hasn't gotten any better. It's actually gotten worse. Every single month gets a little worse, a little worse, a little worse. I'm still holding out hope, but the more I hold out hope, the worse it gets. But then all of a sudden, when it gets really bad and I'm really down about it, all of a sudden he or she comes back and, gives me that carrot, oh gosh, something happens, or tells me, how great I am, or puts me back on that pedestal or whatever it is. And now I'm back again. I'm back here. I'm in charge here. I'm back again. And I know that many of y'all are like, yeah, that's exactly how it feels. And it can be painful. It can be challenging, and you start losing yourself. And that's the biggest caveat of these types of relationships is you lose your own identity because you're too busy trying to take care of them. They have literally become the center of your attention. I mean, the center of your attention. You focus on them all the time. You help them through all of their problems. Your problems go to the wayside. Your stuff that you have to do gets put off to the side. Things don't get done. And over time, it's just a saddening situation because you're like, gosh, I have all these things I got to do in my life. I have all this stuff. I've neglected these things. I put these things on the back burner. What do I have to show for the last 3, 5, 10 years of this relationship? And I'm not saying that there's not some good aspects. Every relationship is not just horrible in and of itself. But it's about, the percentage. How much do you feel good about being in the relationship? How do you feel good, or do you feel good about your identity, or do you feel like you've lost your identity? In relationships where we feel like we have begun to lose our identity, we feel lost. We might feel very personally angry at ourselves. And maybe many of us have worked toward things over our life, and then all of a sudden, when we get in this relationship, we kind of just drop everything. We kind of fall into it, and then over time, it's like this relationship becomes all of us. It's like all-encompassing. And, when you get there, it's like, how do I get out? It's like trying to dig yourself out of a ditch. How do I get out of the ditch? And how do I move out of this? And, and one of the things that we can really analyze as we're trying to figure out how to, ditch dig, is basically like, hey, first off, how did I get here? How did I get here in this relationship? How did I get here? Did I really want this relationship? Is this really what I wanted? Is this the person I really wanted to be with? Is this really what I want in my life? And this is a big question for you to ask yourself. I mean, is this something that I really want in my life? Is this what I really want to do with my life? And another thing is that, what are the things that you used to do before you were with this person, or in the beginning of the relationship when it wasn't so confining? And start making baby steps. Start taking baby steps and tiny steps to make changes in your life by doing things that you actually want to do. And I know that can be hard because you're worried about the anger or the blow up. Or the comments, or the texting, or the calls, or the anger, or the passive-aggressive behavior, or the silent treatment. And I understand, but again, they're not going to stop doing that until we finally say, I don't care. I'm going to still do what I need to do. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm trying to live my life, trying to take care of my responsibilities. And that's when they'll finally stop. And it takes time because, remember, they know what they're doing. They figured out how to scare you. They figured out how to upset you. They figured out how to quiet you down. It's like they figured out how to bully you into being everything that they want. Bully you into doing everything for them. If I make them feel bad enough, they'll shut up and they won't do it, and they'll be there at my beck and call, and they're not going to go on that fishing trip, and instead they're going to be here and they're going to take care of me and they're going to take me out and da 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 da, and I got my way and I'm good and everything's fine. The next time they try to get out of line, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to fight. I'm going to argue. I'm going to make it painful. But if you buck against that, and say, and it's hard. It's not like it's not going to be painful, but the longer we sit in this, the more painful it becomes, because over time, this person wants to completely, subconsciously, they want to completely erase your identity. They want to erase your identity because that once they erase your identity, you become, completely and utterly under their control because there's nothing else left. And then what's sad is that a lot of times in these situations, they end up leaving you, or you end up basically checking out. You check out on alcohol or drugs or whatever, or pills, to not have to deal with the problem anymore because you can't handle it anymore because you've lost your identity and you don't know what to do anymore and you're stuck in the situation. But sometimes I've seen where the other person now has everything they want. And unfortunately, then they take off, leaving you a shell of a person. And the only way that I've realized that we can offset this is by realizing how much we've lost of ourselves and basically start trying to pull that back into our life. Getting those things back, the things that we love to do, the people we wanted to hang out with, our hobbies that we had, the stuff that we like to do, going to the gym, taking care of our bodies. If we like to go out on the boat, going out on the boat. If we like to ride the motorcycle, whatever it is that we do, go do it. And be consistent about it. And be consistent about finding the value in what you're doing for you. And connecting, reconnecting. It's about reconnecting with yourself. And yeah, there will be some turmoil and everything, but over time, you're training them that this isn't going to work anymore. You're training them. I'm not doing this anymore. And over time they get frustrated because, wow, this used to work every time. I used to yell at him and put him in his place, and then I would go silent. I would go silent at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, making her wonder where I'm at, and I'd resurface the next day around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and this person's completely frazzled and has no idea what's going on or what was going on. It's perfect. Got them right in their corner, right where they need to be at. So the next time I need to use this, I can use it, right? But if you kind of hold your tongue and you do what you got to do and you hold on steady and you overcome that over time, you're just like, over time it gets easier because you also realize the game. And once you realize the game, realizing the game is a lot of it. I mean, that's a big piece of the puzzle. Once you see that this is, this is all about self-preservation and what that person wants. What they want. Not what's best for you, but what they want for themselves. I want to see what's best for you. I want you to do what's best for you. And if I can help you do what's best for you, then I'm here for you. If you want to learn more about me and my practice, go to ashleyburgess.com. Ashley, A-S-H-L-E-Y, Burgess, B-E-R-G-E-S.com. Also, you can check out video content. New video content is placed every week, several times a week on the YouTube channel. And just go to YouTube and type in Life Coach Ashley Burgess. Ashley, B-E-R-G-E-S. And you can also go to the website, ashleyburgess.com, and you can actually set up an appointment in the coaching section right there online, and we can start working together, and I look forward to meeting you. And in the meantime, think about it. Are you in this type of relationship? Have you become more codependent based on this type of relationship and the insecurities that it's brought out in you? And is this person taking advantage of you? And do you feel like they're taking advantage of you? And if you feel it, it's probably very true. And start thinking about this, making a list and thinking about what changes you want to make in your life, because it's up to you. Nobody's going to make your life better but you. It's up to you. You are the sole proprietor of your life. You are the person that has to basically take care of it. And if things are not working, we need to augment them to make them work. And that's what is so powerful. And you have the opportunity to do that. And I would also love to be given the opportunity to co-pilot with you in the process of change, success, powering up, and completely connecting with your highest self. I hope that the show is connected with you. Please share with family and friends. Send them the link, the Apple link or the Spotify link or the Spreaker link or whatever link. Send it to other people so they can hear the show. I appreciate it. Let's get the word out and try to help others going through this situation because they owe themselves to help and get change, but they need knowledge too, and everybody needs to share it so that we can make this world a better place. I hope that you've connected with the show and live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time. You know it. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.